Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Francisco Angel. Francisco, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing so well, and you look so good. And people will understand here in a second why you look so goddamn good today. So, a little bit about you. You were born and raised in Minnesota. Skull. You attended Pacelli Catholic School, where you first discovered your love of film. Since then, you have created dozens of short films. You're a director, writer, editor, producer, stunt coordinator, and actor. You also founded your own production company, Crazy Angel Films, which is how you and I got in contact with each other in the first place. And you began creating content on YouTube, such as essay videos and podcasts, which I can't recommend enough. And the good thing is, you don't have to go looking for it, guys, because all the links are right down here in the description. So make sure you're clicking those links, subscribing, and following where necessary. So let's start off at the top. What made you want to get the kick in the pants to actually become a director, writer, editor, pretty much every possible thing you can become in film? What gave you the jump to want to do that?
So before that, like in middle school, or even before middle school, like I would write a lot. I would write stories. So when it came to films and jumping into films, like it didn't hit me before that I could tell a story visually. So when that happened in high school, funny enough, it was in religion class. My teacher had us do a project. It could be anything, the topic be anything, just related to religion, but it had to be done in a format that you've never done before. So my friends and I were like, let's do a short film. That would be easy. And it wasn't, but from there it sparked this like love where I was like, oh, I can write, but then I could also bring it to life visually. So yeah, that's how that came about.
And it's amazing how something so beautiful could start at such a pure, for such a pure reason in general.
Mhm.
So you're doing all these things, and then you're like, you know what? This isn't enough. I'm going to do a YouTube channel as well. So what made you decide to actually start doing the YouTube channel? What was your influence for that?
First, I started just posting like all the shorts. I would make it with my friends in high school, all the like short stories and short films, which you will not be able to see online anymore. But it mostly stemmed from that, because in my school, like people would watch it and they thought it was cool. But from there, like I started, I would view horror channels and like other reaction channels and stuff like that. And I thought it would be cool to do the things I love to see. So that's kind of where that came from. And then, obviously I just started this podcast, Frights with Franny, which, you're going to be on there. So stay tuned for that. But for me, that was what inspired me to do that podcast. Is I wanted to meet other horror lovers, because I don't have many friends that actually like love horror in real life. So, it's great to connect. And like, I was talking to the guest I had last night, like how interconnected our community is online, and like how like it's a small world here, but like everyone's so nice, and it's been so great to just meet everyone.
Well, and I think the big thing in the horror community is we all want each other to succeed. There's never
Mhm.
that like jealousy or, anything like that. Like when we're always rooting for each other, it really is like a family. Like, sure, we get competitive with each other and we have fun, but at the end of the day, like we just want each other to succeed. We just want to talk with each other. We just want to hang out with each other. To me, it's a lot like a baseball community, like I'm a huge baseball fan as well. And you get very, very competitive, but you all love each other very much. So that's what it always comes back to with me. So the crazy thing here is, in order for you to create horror short movies and talk about horror with people online, you had to start horror somewhere. So, Francisco, I want to go back to the past here for a second, and I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is the first time I've been able to talk about this magnificent movie that I love very much. And I would put up in my top 5 films that came out in the last 20 years, and I'd put it up in my top 1 or 2 of badass women films. So, Francisco, the first time I've talked about it on the podcast, you are dressed for the part, my friend. Your first horror movie was
The Descent. Um, so what a first. Let me just say, like I was exposed to like snippets of horror, but this is the first one I fully watched. But like, what an intense movie to watch! Because I might have been like 6 or 7 when this came out. So the fact that I watched that at this age, at that young age, like but like you were saying, this movie is so good in like every aspect of it. It's one that I've watched like hundreds of times, especially with my friends who are more vanilla with horror, and they're like, "We want to watch something scary." I'm like, "Oh, I have something for you." I don't tell them what it's
Mhm.
about. I'm like, "Here," like I just say it's a survival story. Just just sit back and enjoy it. We watch it with the lights off. It's. Um, but
Well,
what a
the good
great
thing about
film.
this movie is all the different elements of horror that come with it.
Mhm,
Like you have the claustrophobia, you have the monsters, you have the betrayal of friendship, you have the betrayal of a husband. I mean, like everything in this movie is built so well, and the storytelling is so damn good. Um,
mhm.
do you remember who you were with the first time you had seen it?
I might have been just with my sister. Like it was probably one of those situations because like I would go to like Family Video or Blockbuster and kind of just scroll through the horror
Mhm.
aisle and then pick something based on the cover. And of course the cover was this. So like I was like, oh, let's see what this is. And yeah, I think I might have just been with my sister, or maybe my dad was there too, but it was probably just my sister.
Man, and again, it's amazing how you watch this movie as a child and it's like monsters and a cave that scares you. But the older you get, the more you realize how scary there's so many of the surrounding things that are happening in this movie are. Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most on first viewing?
Uh, the the scene that there's so many effective scenes in this, but the one that I guess stood out to me the first time I watched it the most was when once Sarah like she has to kill Beth, her best friend. That's so sad. She finds out about her husband's betrayal, but then she's like running away from this like female crawler, and she falls into this pool of blood and guts. And then she has to fight out that female crawler. She kills like the a male crawler, and she just stands there, just covered, like drenched in blood, and just lets out this like scream of just pain and horror. Like that's the scene that stood out to me.
Dude, yes, because everything is raining shit on her right now.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's that whole realization of everything that has been going on with her and then everything else that's happening now. You talked a little bit about a kill there for a second. I was going to ask you, so let's segue into it.
Okay.
There are some effective kills in this movie. Which kill would you say stood out to you the most? What would you say your favorite kill from The Descent is?
I'll say Sam's death, and she was hanging, and then the crawler comes up and like rips her throat out. Um, Mostly because like I like the imagery of her just like hanging there afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But like the horror that her sister had to watch that happen in front of her, like that was pretty
Yeah,
horrific. So I'll say that one.
I'm all on board with that too. Like the practical effects in this movie are amazing too. That's another
Mhm.
thing I can say about this movie is that the practical effects are so good. So we know which scene affected you the most, and we know which kill it was that affected you the most. But what would you say your favorite scene from The Descent is?
My favorite scene. Oh, by far my favorite scene is the end when Sarah quote unquote escapes. When she's that scene is so beautiful when she's like climbing up the pile of bones to the sunlight. There's like that side shot of like her crawling up, and then David Julian's beautiful score while she's like exiting. Oh, amazing! It's so good. That is my favorite scene. Just the score, the cinematography, everything in that is great.
It's one of those things where you have that moment of success. She did it.
Mhm.
She made it. Like I said, you have it for a moment. Now, um, another thing that we talk about with this film is how impactful it has been in the genre. So when someone brings up The Descent, what is the first thing that pops into your mind when someone starts talking about this film?
I think everything. Like I think of the movie that kills the drama, the story. Like I feel like that is overlooked because I so as a kid, like once I watched this, I loved this, and I would watch it all the time after that. So like whenever I'd have my friends watch it, like I would have to explain to them the whole affair part because they didn't get it, and I'm just like, oh, like she stole her man and stuff like that. So I would have to explain it, but like the drama is very well woven into this, um, and those human aspects I feel like sometimes are overlooked because of the monsters. And yeah, the monsters are like really like gross and creepy, but like that the horror of like those human circumstances. Oh, you know.
Yeah, Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like the monsters aren't just the things that are hiding underground sometimes. Sometimes the
Mhm.
monsters can be the things or the people that are closest to us. So um a question I usually ask, usually my little buddy Ghostface comes and he joins us, but he's on set today filming for Scream 6. So he wanted me to ask you, what's your favorite scary movie, Francisco? What is your
Right.
favorite? Or, oh, see, there you go. Yeah, what is your favorite horror movie of all time?
So my favorite horror movie of all time. So I have my unholy trinity, my three of all time. So first, that can be great. So first we have The Descent, obviously. Then we have Scream, and then we have Wreck.
Nice.
So all those three movies, I think, what while sitting down and like thinking about why I like them so much, I think all of them subvert expectations. Because like The Descent starts really like the for the first half, the horror is all like in caving and like like when Sarah gets trapped in the tunnel and then it slightly shifts and you're like, oh shit, like just the suspense of that, of like having to like go through this cave system and you could like
Yeah.
anything could go wrong at any second. And then the second half turns into a creature feature, and then it's like the horror of like surviving these creatures. The same with the other movies. It's like it subverts what you think it's gonna be, and things just go crazy in the last act. And I think that's what all three of them have in common for me.
Well, let me ask you this. You're stranded on a desert island. You can only take one of your Holy Trinity with you. You can only take one of them. Which one are you taking?
Oof. Am I taking a DVD player too?
Yeah, yeah. You can
Oh,
have one movie and a DVD/Blu-ray player with you.
hmm. Which one? Honestly, I feel like, oof. I'll say The Descent for now, but I feel like that answer will probably change. Like it probably changes depending on the day.
Sure. Yeah. So I've had an amazing time talking with you about how horror started for you and what got the genre going for you. But I do want to jump back real quick to The Descent. We always end this with the
Yes.
same question. We're going to bounce back to The Descent. And I think I know the answer, but I got to ask. We're going to rank
Mm.
this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking The Descent on acting, production, score, none of these things. What we're doing here is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Francisco, what would your ranking of The Descent be?
If I could, I would give it 10 skulls, but I will give it five. Like,
I figured as much, man.
like, okay, so like the impact that I had as a kid after watching this, like I made a game. It was basically freeze tag. We would call it The Descent, and all my plays would play it. And basically, one of us would be like a monster, and then like we would like make sounds, and then we'd I would
That's
play that in
legit.
elementary. Like, yeah, like I that's how much the film affected me. If, and when the
And
sequel came
that's
out,
strictly amazing.
yeah, when the sequel came out, I had watched this so many times that at a young age I can point out all the continuity errors. Like, oh, that's not the right place in the cave. Like that's how much I watched that movie.
So were you a fan of the sequel or no?
um, I've learned to like it for what it is, but there are so many things that I just didn't like. Uh, there are nuggets that I like from it, and there are other things like I didn't like. I think the crawlers in this first one had much more better practical effects, and they looked like really realistic with the slime and stuff, like
Mhm.
something you would find coming out of a cave. And then in this new one, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like they explained that they were the different tribe, but I'm like they're supposed to be in the same places in the cave, so I was confused with that. But yeah, and then to me as a kid, like the blood in the second one seemed like tomato soup for some reason. So I was like, so I have a love hate relationship with it. Like every once in a while, I'll pop it on and stuff because I like seeing Sarah and Juno. I like seeing them again as
Yeah.
characters.
See, I agree
And
with you. Like, if for what it is, I like it, but it's nothing compared to the first one. The first one completely blew the second one out of the water. So, I do want to remind everybody, I have all of Francisco's social media links and YouTube link right down here in the description. So make sure you're giving him a follow. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. You'll be able to see an interview that he did with Ashley and I, and we're ranking the Insidious franchise. So make sure you guys are checking that out so you can see us talk about a franchise that really does mean a lot to me. So Francisco, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.